Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm here today to talk about conspiracy theories and do my makeup at the same time. This is my first video. We'll see how it goes. My name is Chloe Goodman, also known as the Beauty Queen Brat. This is my channel. Please feel free to hit subscribe, like, follow, whatever the heck people do on here. I am here today to talk about Area 51 and the Roswell incident with you. We're gonna get started, but I wanted to kind of give some like background, whatever, to kind of put that out there and just so you know. So all the information that I find and that I'm talking about today is not mine. I found on the internet, YouTube, Wikipedia, you know, where you find stuff. I am not a professional makeup artist. I am an amateur at best. I have been doing my makeup and other people's makeup since I was probably 15 and I've always loved it, and so thought, you know what, conspiracy theories, makeup, smash it together, let's see what happens. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Let's start with the background of Area 51. I feel like that's a good starting point. So Area 51 has been a part of the US Air Force since the 1950s. The thing about Area 51 is that it was never declared a private secret base, but the CIA didn't recognize or like talk about it or even say that it was there until June 25th of 2013. Okay, it's been a minute. You want to tell people what's going on? According to the Air Force, Area 51 is just like a regular training camp. They don't like disclose or say what's going on there. So that's like, it's just very secretive. No one really knows what's going on in Area 51. Everyone has their own like idea, but it was never like declared a secret. It was never like, all right, no, we're not gonna, Area 51 doesn't exist. They just never declared it, but it was kind of like, they didn't talk about it either. It's thought to like develop new aircraft and like weapon systems. That's what is like thought to go on there. The official names of Area 51 are Homey Airport and Groom Lake, because it is located on Groom Lake in Nevada. It's actually located 83 miles northwest of Las Vegas. I have a mirror right here, so if I'm like looking down here, it's because I have a mirror. Due to its secret nature, it makes it a great like center for a lot of conspiracy theories. Some conspiracies that have come out and like as a result of Area 51 are like the development of weather control, the development of time travel, the development of like teleportation technology, Aurora Project, and the Majestic 12 organization. So Majestic 12 is an alleged code name for a group of top scientists, high-ranking military leaders, and government officials that was put together in 1947 by President Harry Truman to like investigate and like retrieve alien spacecraft and just alien technology. With that said, let's just jump right into Roswell. To preface the story of like the Roswell incident and everything, I just want to make it known that in 1947, which is when Roswell happened, there had been over 300 claims of UFO sightings in the US in the last 6 months of that year, 1947. Well, there was a lot going on, to say the least. That people were like, what is going on in the sky? And everyone was like, we don't know what's going on in the sky. In 1947, July of 1947, our friend William Mac Brazel comes across a wreckage on the farm he's working at called Foster Ranch, about 30 miles north of Roswell, New Mexico. He's with his son. They come across this wreckage and they describe it as a bright wreckage that's made up of like rubber strips, tinfoil, a rather tough paper, and sticks. All right, weird. So he and his son leave, and then they come back a couple hours with his daughter and his wife, because like sounds like a great family outing. They just kind of like collect up the material, and they're like, all right, let's scatter on home. The next day, Mac Brazil is hearing all of these reports of a UFO over the area, like a flying disc, not a UFO, but a flying disc. And the sheriff of the town kind of confidentially whispers to Brazil that the records that he had come across was a UFO flying disc. So the next day, the sheriff of this town contacts intelligence officer Jesse Marcel, who's important. Make a mental note. Marcel brings some friends with him, known as Lieutenant Colonel Sheridan Cavett, and then Master Sergeant Bill Rickett. These guys come and look at the scene, like the Roswell scene, and they report back to the Roswell Army airfield. And they're like, this is a little weird. This is a little funky. Some funky stuff's going on down there. So the next day, after Marcel and his buddies go back to the airfield, the public information officer, Will Hout, does a press release basically announcing that the scene at Roswell was a flying disc. So they're like, all right, no, this is a flying disc. Like, we don't know what else to call it, so it's a flying disc. And within a couple hours, the FBI sends basically like a telegram to the commanding officer at the airfield, William H. Blanchard. He sent him a message saying, look, no, this isn't a UFO. This is actually a crashed weather balloon. And they're like, a weather balloon? I should mention that Jesse Marcel was like very well versed in what aircrafts were made out of at the time, and like what was going on in the air and what materials would be falling out of the air and what would be out of wreckage. And he said he had never seen any materials like this ever. I put tape on my face, if you were wondering what this is, it's tape. Now, fast forward to 1994, the government comes forward and they're like, yo, so there was a cover-up at Roswell. Everyone's like, aliens? Aliens? And they're like, no, better. And we're like, oh my god, yeah, what's better than aliens? And they're like, it was actually a cover-up for a governmental project. And we're like, oh my god, that sounds really cool. What does that mean? They're like, basically what was going on was we were using special weather balloons to monitor if the Soviets were using any nuclear warfare. Like, this was during the Cold War. And they're like, oh my god, that's literally not better than aliens. It's actually really boring and we don't really care that much. Unless you're really into that stuff, and then I guess that is really cool for you. But generally speaking, not that cool compared to aliens. Yeah, Project Mogul was set up by the government to detect if the Soviets were using any form of nuclear warfare, or practicing, monitoring if they were developing nuclear warfare. They were using weather balloons at this time over New Mexico, but it was these special nuclear monitoring weather balloons. They were using it over the site of where Roswell happened. So they're like, why didn't you tell us sooner? Okay, end of story, right? Wrong. Not the end of the story. Between 1978 and 1994, UFO researchers had interviewed hundreds of people who had first-hand accounts of what happened at Roswell. They're like, yo, what happened? According to nuclear physicist Donald Schmidt, which, like, if you know anything about UFOs and like conspiracy theories around aliens, you probably know who Donald Schmidt is. He was like a really big deal back in the 90s and like wrote lots of books and blah blah blah, all that exciting stuff. So if you don't know who he is, I highly recommend looking him up. He's very interesting. He's a very smart man. Obviously, he's a nuclear physicist. But according to Schmidt, everyone he interviewed and everyone, like, these scientists and researchers had interviewed all had very similar and like kind of weird reactions to what happened, and they all like had very similar physical reactions to being asked to these questions. And it was just very interesting. Like, he was like, there was definitely something going on, and like all these people had the same account. They're like, no, there was like little bodies on the field, which we'll come back to. It was just weird. It was like everyone was like, what's going on? And no one was listening to that. The military was like, we're not, no, shh, stop. And so Schmidt was like, nah, this is weird. But Schmidt also thinks that the government was trying to cover this up due to the thought of there were a decent amount of Soviet spies in the New Mexico area. And he was just like, all right, the government probably didn't want the Soviet spies to know we had alien technology, kind of thing. So in 1978, another nuclear scientist named Santo Friedman, he interviewed Jesse Marcel. And Jesse said that the materials that he had seen at the scene were nothing like anything he'd ever seen. He said that the metal on the scene was so weird. He said it was almost weightless and non-malleable, so like you couldn't dent it, you couldn't really bend it, you couldn't do anything to it. And he was like, it was really weird because it was nothing he'd ever seen before. And like I said, he was very well versed in what was going on in spacecraft at that time, not spacecraft, aircraft at that time. He was like, and his wasn't the only account of this weird metal. One guy said that he was able to crumple the metal up in his hand, but then after releasing it, it would just immediately take shape that it was originally in. It was just a very weird kind of metal. And it's like, if you look it up, it's called memory metal. Sorry, this is kind of hard. According to a document that Walter Howe, who at the time during all of this was the public information officer at the airfield, so he left a document on his deathbed, and he said that Jesse Marcel was forced to take pictures with materials from a weather balloon crash, but not materials from the Roswell crash. So there's an infamous photo of Jesse standing next to these materials, supposedly that are supposed to be like what was found on the scene, but they were not what was found. So everyone's like, hold up, what's going on now? So when researchers sent requests to the Roswell Army Airfield to see documents, it was really weird because all the documents between January of 1947 to October of 1947 had been destroyed. And nobody knows by whom or why. We know why. We know why. And if you think that is fishy, another thing that's quite fishy is that our friend Brazel, the guy who came across the wreckage with his son, he initially said to authorities while being interviewed that there were little bodies on the scene. Little bodies. And then quickly recanted the statement and was like, nah, I didn't see any bodies. But then soon after that, Brazel was seen driving a new truck around town and then abruptly moved. So the government's excuse for these little bodies was that at the time the airfield was dropping dummies to practice new parachuting techniques for the Air Force. But mind you, these dummies were supposedly 6 feet tall, and these bodies found on the scene were supposed to be no larger than 4 feet tall. Apparently these little bodies were obviously little, had massive heads, big eyes, holes for a nose, and tiny slit for a mouth. So soon after the initial press release, do you remember the commanding officer William H. Blanchard went on leave? And this leave, according to a lot of people, was really just a cover-up to like coordinate a cleanup for the scene. Just get things where they need to be, apparently. I don't really know. But that's what I read on the internet, so we're gonna go with it. According to a personal private of Lawrence Craigie, who was the chief director of the engineering division of the Air Force, according to a personal pilot of his, when this guy know how to fly a plane? If he's in the Air Force, then he's the engineer. I subjective. I guess not. According to his personal pilot, it flew Craigie from Roswell. He checked over Roswell, was like, all right, something's funky going on here. And then this pilot flew Craigie immediately to meet with President Harry Truman. And then soon after he meets with Harry Truman, he is promoted to Chief Director of R&D. And then soon after that, creates a project called Project Sign, which was the first ever project of like investigating flying discs made by the Air Force or any like division of the military. I feel like if they just were like, yo, by the way, aliens exist, people wouldn't be that surprised or that like, you know, freaked out by it, because like I feel like obviously we can't be the only living creatures in the galaxy, because like it's a lot of space, there's a lot going on in space, like we just can't be the only ones. The story's not over yet. I just wanted to give like a little intermission. Get some water, stay hydrated. The story's almost over, but I'll just wait. We're back? Alright, cool. So I'm gonna quickly just do my eyeliner off camera. According to an engineer in 2008, he finally admitted after years of denying that he had actually worked on some of the debris that had been found at Roswell. He actually worked with the ship, and he said that he, to this day, he's probably dead now, to his last dying breath, he had no idea how that ship flew because it had no engine. Our good friend Will Howe, who was the public information officer, he also saw the ship and said that it was 12 feet long and windowless. I don't know about you, but I think I'd need windows to fly. Unless it was like a drone, which I guess could have been possible, but seems unlikely. I feel like they would have found some kind of like camera or some kind of visual device. They didn't find any of that. And in me saying that, I realized there's a lot of guys named William in this. We have Will Howe, we have Will Brazel, who was Mac, just other Wills. Full circle. Will Smith was in Independence Day that had aliens and spacecraft in it. Full circle. In 1989, there was this guy named Bob Lazar who claimed to have worked at Area 51 in the Sector 4. He said that he was contracted to work for like the CIA and the FBI in Area 51 to work on spacecrafts that they had in their possession. Maybe. Finish my eye. So this is kind of where things start to kind of get conspiracy theory. Could this be real? Could this be fake? Kind of up to you to decide. 1989, the 71-year-old mechanic was getting interviewed for a documentary. He claims that he worked for Area 51. So this guy apparently worked for Area 51. He was a mechanical engineer. He worked to help create the simulator for pilots using like UFO technology, basically using technology they had taken from UFOs. This guy also claims that he worked alongside of with like an alien named J-Rod. Kind of a sick name. He just sounds like a cool guy. This guy apparently worked alongside of this alien named J-Rod. The thing about this for me is like, imagine being an alien, right? And you're just like, my spacecraft is failing. I'm gonna die. Or I have to land on this planet. And hopefully, the people on this planet are nice enough to help me fix up my spaceship and then let me be on my way. Because, like, maybe J-Rod's people are just really nice and maybe that's what they would do for us. And we're like, nah, J-Rod, we're gonna put you in a tube and we're gonna do tests on you. Anal probe you. Take some tissue. Clone your virus. Takes us to the next guy whose name's Dan something. Couldn't find a last, well, the thing is, find a last name, but I found like 3 different last names for him. His name's Dan Birch, Dan Birch, and then Dan Crane. It's got enough names, dude. So this Dan dude with the 50 different names, he also worked for Area 51, and he claimed that he was like a doctor, sort of like a scientist, obviously, and he claimed that he worked with our boy J-Rod and that he and J-Rod became friends. Imagine like going home to like your wife and kids and they're like, Daddy, how is work? What did you do? And he's like, well, kids, I befriended this alien. According to this Dan guy, J-Rod was like, he and his people, he came to Earth because they had lived on Earth like thousands of years ago and had to leave due to global catastrophes, and like basically they had to leave because they did what we did, you know, they did what we did. They killed the planet and they had to go. And J-Rod was like, yeah, so we came here to befriend the human race. We wanted to befriend the human race, and we wanted to try to like not reproduce, but find a variant of human DNA to kind of clone for their DNA. And this guy was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let me just sneak you out. So our dude Dan, he helps get J-Rod out. Let's get out of here. And he takes him to Egypt, right? He's like, let's go to Egypt. He's like, all right, I'm gonna put you through this star portal to get you back home. So that's Dan's story. He worked on J-Rod and he helped him get home by putting him through a star portal. All right, fair, I guess. What else are you gonna do with an alien? You're not gonna put him through like a normal portal. How would you do that? I don't know. So I quickly finished my makeup off camera. That's kind of the story. That's kind of like the Roswell incident and Area 51 and just kind of information behind that. And last year, actually, April 29th of 2020, the CIA actually released videos, like numerous videos of UFOs, and they're like, oh, by the way, but because of COVID and everything going kind of crazy and us all thinking the world was gonna end, kind of just got brushed under the carpet and was like, aliens, that's not surprising. They never confirmed alien life, but they did confirm UFOs. Take what you will with that. Think about it, lay on it, think about all this. It's kind of like the top conspiracy and the most classic, and that's kind of why I picked it for my first kind of show, because you know about it. Even if you don't know about it, you know about it. If it was confusing, I'm sorry. I will put everything that I used in the description box, as well as like my Twitter and my Instagram and all the corresponding links that go with this channel. I'm thinking about doing this uploading every Sunday. If anyone watches it, that's cool. If not, it's for my boyfriend. He can watch it then. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please hit subscribe if you like conspiracy theories and makeup. I promise it will get better from here. If you have any recommendations, if you have any questions, if you have any answers, please just put them in the comments below. And thank you for hanging out with me. And I will see you next week.